Hey guys, welcome to Ringsiders. We are joined by the one and only, from his car, AJ Kirsch. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. And thank you for right off the bat pointing out that I am indeed in my car, which is a first for me. We were talking off air about how I was hoping I'd never be that guy that didn't interview my car, but here we are.
Dude, I love it. I love the fact we should do a podcast where we just talk to people in the cars.
That's what we do anyway, Jamie. Like I said, half of our interviews are with people in cars anyway. So that is kind of what we're doing right now.
Right. Carpool karaoke is a big hit. Apparently, Jerry Seinfeld gets coffee with people in cars. So,
wrestling interviews in cars is that next niche interview thing.
I like it.
We're at the forefront of it because that's what we do anyway. And you're the first guest on Ringsider's carpool karaoke.
Nice.
I can't sing. Jamie can you sing?
I've been known to carry a tune at karaoke a time or two.
Can you sing maybe Shawn Michaels' entrance theme real quick for us?
Oh my God. Shawn, I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy.
There we go.
I got the looks that drives the girls wild. I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. I didn't expect that, to be honest.
That was incredible.
Exceeded all expectations already for this interview. That's
well, great, because from here on out, they're just going to tumble straight down a cliff. So
just like our viewer retention for our interviews anyway. Usually after a minute, it starts to go down. So that's
amazing. Fine. Yeah,
I do feel like I owe you an apology though, because you did mention carpool karaoke. I truly apologize for giving you James Corden. I really, really do.
So sorry.
That's okay. I mean, probably not the worst thing to happen to America within the last 30 seconds. So,
or the worst thing that the Brits have ever done to America. So,
that too.
Yeah.
That too. It's a constant back and forth. I feel like we're barely holding on over here.
Yeah, I just that guy has a lot of dislike over here. I don't know why, but he just does my head in.
We get it. Every single interview he does, especially carpool karaoke, and when he starts singing, the guest and all of the audience go, "Oh my God, he's singing!" It's like he does that in every single episode. Why is it a surprise when he starts singing? It's
right. Kind of the name of the show.
Like this was a surprise when AJ Kirsch did a rendition of "Sexy Boy." That was a surprise. Who would have seen that coming?
Right. I know. I mean, we're starting it off with surprises right off the bat.
and an original Jimmy Mouth of the South Heart tune as well. I mean, we're going with the classics there. We're going with the classics, but I know why I hate James Corden, because he did a carpool karaoke with the Foo Fighters, and I love Foo Fighters are like gods to me, AJ. So James Corden got to meet them before me. That's why I hate him. But anyway.
Well, of course
I see. So a little bit of jealousy happening there. Yeah.
It's jealousy.
It's more jealousy.
Okay.
Yeah. But I digress. We've spoken about Corden way too much. You're welcome to him. You're welcome to him. I've got to start off, dude. I've got to ask, obviously, Tough Enough. Because we love Tough Enough. We watch it still on the network all the time. I mean, what was that experience like? What made you apply? What made you go for Tough Enough?
I mean, why wouldn't you apply to Tough Enough? Like as an aspiring pro wrestler and as somebody who at the time, like my goal was to be signed with WWE, like it just seemed, it seemed like one of those things where it's like really far-fetched, but it's like somebody has to be on that show. Like they have to get those people from somewhere. So I was like, why not just make a video and send it in and see what happens? And so, just the answer is always no unless you ask. That kind of thing. So like I sent in a video and, through a very long and extensive casting process, eventually made it onto the show. And the phrase that I keep going back to is I had to remind myself out loud that I wasn't dreaming a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Just because there were so many surreal experiences, so many WWE superstars coming and going. Yeah. The field trips were all ridiculous. And obviously there were some very pivotal moments on that show. And this is actually a perfect segue into my podcast, which is called Tough Talk with AJ Kirsch, when myself, the contestants, but also people from production, like, for example, the executive producer is the guest this week, at least the week that you and I record this. So we it's been 10 years. So we feel like it's a good time to just really talk about everything, like the strings being pulled behind the scenes, who the trainers had their eyes on, who they wanted to win. So anyway, we talk about everything. You can download it and listen to it anywhere you get podcasts by going to thetoughtalkpod.com. Videos are on my YouTube if you prefer to watch rather than listen. That's youtube.com/AJ Kirsch, and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's all at the Tough Talk Pod.
Hell yeah. We were
that was a brilliant. You've done that before. You've done that before.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, well, I do it every episode on the podcast, but also as soon as you said Tough Enough, I was like, perfect segue into the plugs.
Well, you did mention as well, I mean, I've always wondered that. I mean, do they have a winner do they have someone they want to win from the start? Because I've always heard people say, oh, Vince McMahon's got his eye on so-and-so or something like that. I mean, is there someone that they want to win from the start?
Not that I've uncovered yet. I still, again, I feel like after talking with the executive producer who kind of oversaw the entire project, he came clean about a lot, but he never mentioned the fact that the trainers or the staff had somebody that they wanted to win. They did see stories developing with certain contestants that they wanted to see, that they wanted to see continue. So like Luke, for example, was one of the standouts from the very beginning. We were only a couple days into the competition and everybody already hated him, which was his plan. He came in with a game plan. Like the Luke Robinson in real life is not the Luke Robinson that you saw on the show. And again, it would be, if you're curious about that, he and I were episode 3 of Tough Talk. So, and he pulls the curtain all the way back. So definitely check that one out. But, the producers and the people, running the show, they see stories developing as the show progresses. And so they do their part to massage that narrative without actually directing the contestants what to do. So if they pull us aside for a quick confessional, they might ask a question in a way that's framed to make the contestant answer in a certain way so that they get something that moves along the story they see happening. But they never once told us what to do or how to answer questions or what to say. So there is a line there with reality television between, what's happening organically, but it's all being steered to a certain extent.
Right. Yeah.
I get it.
I have always wondered that too, because you watch it and you think in your head, all wrestling fans do, they think, yeah, that's a guy Vince McMahon would like. Really, probably in real life, Vince McMahon isn't even watching it, saying he's probably watching it, but not thinking, oh yeah, he's got to win. I think he'd be more interested to see who the fans naturally get behind on a series like that, because it's the whole point of Tough Enough is to find somebody who's not only tough enough to do it, but that the fans will want to see wrestle. And and a lot of the times with Tough Enough, it's not always the winner who comes out doing the best. It's the same with American Idol and stuff like that. Sometimes it's the runners-up who go on to better fame. Do you feel like that was the same with your season of Tough Enough?
That's hard to say, because I think Luke was the overwhelming favorite going into the finals, but because of some controversy that came up with his past, which again, we go into on that episode of Tough Talk, they went with Andy. And Andy, if you go, obviously you guys have watched the show, Andy really never knocked it out of the park during Tough Enough. He was a big guy, had a good look and, fits the mold that I think Vince McMahon typically goes for. But Luke was just oozing charisma and just an impeccable, smarmy heel. And fans, I don't know that that's the case that Vince would want to see who the fans get behind, because Tough Enough isn't in front of fans. Tough Enough is in front of cameras and production staff. It's not really in front of anybody. So I think it's hard to gauge who the fan favorite would be. And this was 10 years ago. So it was during a time when social media wasn't nearly the powerhouse platform that it is today.
Yeah.
So it's hard to gauge who fans would have gravitated toward more. And I think that actually would have mattered less on a show like Tough Enough, because they're really looking for somebody to invest time and money in. It's like a fun little notch in their belt if they won Tough Enough, but that's, Tough Enough, I feel like, is so almost, I don't want to say separate from WWE, but it's definitely not what the job entails if you get signed to a contract.
Do you feel like there's still a market for something like Tough Enough in WWE currently? Because I'd love to see it come back, but I don't know what the reception would be like.
Absolutely, I think there is. I think there's a reality show aspect of pro wrestling that has proven successful with Tough Enough, and mine was season 5. Season 6, I don't think did as well, but there's a reality show, genre that doesn't really have a pro wrestling presence right now. So yeah, I feel like it would be wise to bring back Tough Enough, and especially again now in this day and age of social media, when it would be a lot easier to get people to want to tune in. And I don't know if they vote for their favorites or voice their concerns, but but the other side of that coin is there's just so much wrestling nowadays. There's so much. There's so much. So
you'd know all about that, though. You'd know all about this wrestling, that there is in other places, because you showed up in AEW recently. So
I did.
Yeah, how was that?
Well, let me just finish my prior thought real quick. If they do bring back Tough Enough, or if they do mix things up, and I wish they would, for the love of God, get rid of 1 hour of Raw and make that like a separate show.
Deal.
Like,
hell yes.
It is 3 hours of Raw. It's too much. It's been too much. And like another, apologies to plug the podcast again, but the executive producer on this week's episode goes into great detail about how Tough Enough was actually the catalyst to make Raw 3 hours long.
Oh, really?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you're saying Tough Enough is to blame for 3 hour Raw?
Kinda.
Wait, and you were on Tough Enough. So what I'm hearing is it's partially your fault, AJ.
I mean, if that's how you want to break it down, then yes, it's partially my fault. You're welcome, wrestling world.
That's how wrestling fans' brains work. So
exactly, this is on me and 13 other contestants.
I'll tell you what, as well. I know before Callum mentioned AEW, but before we mention AEW, quick one on Tough Enough. I've got to ask, how cool is Stone Cold Steve Austin?
The coolest. He's the best. He's like your cool uncle that you go to barbecues with on the 4th of July and Labor Day or something. Like he's so down to earth. He's funny. I don't think he gets credit for how funny he is. Well, no, he's had a lot of funny moments on WWE TV, but he's a funny guy. He's a good dude. From my time that I spent with him, and I spent time with him both on the show and off the show. I was on his podcast a number of times. One time actually in his home, which was incredible. But he's a super nice guy. Wow. And once you start talking wrestling or something, it's like you're just talking to a friend.
So you did the Stone Cold show, and then you went on Ringsiders. So it's only been up from there, is what I'm
yeah. I am on an astronomical trajectory right now.
But Stone Cold was a huge fan of your promos, if I remember correctly. Because I know when they were doing promo class on Tough Enough, you were always the guy who was knocking out the park with promos. You had like that confidence about you. And I think everyone remembers you as the promo guy. What was it like getting in there and doing the promos and being comfortable with something that everybody else seemed to struggle with a bit? Because promos, you either have that confidence straight away or it takes time to learn. And I feel like you had it from the start. So what was it like doing that?
I knew actually, like, as a high school student, like when I decided I was like, I want to pursue pro wrestling. And, high school kid, you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I was not good at public speaking. I was terrified of speaking in public. And so when I was in college, I chose a major. I chose communications because I knew I needed to get better at speaking in front of people if I was going to be a good pro wrestler, because most of pro wrestling isn't wrestling. If you can cut a promo, then that's enough to be a draw right there. So like I did speech communication classes, I did argumentation and debate classes, mass media and propaganda, because I wanted to know how to reach an audience, like a broad audience, and critical thinking. So I took all these classes, many of which required presentations in front of the rest of the class. And so I knew I had to get better at it. And that's how you get better at something, by doing it a lot. So promos were always kind of my strong suit. Like I just, after I kind of honed that skill, it just got to be second nature. And so I was never really worried about cutting promos on Tough Enough. And even when, Steve Austin was watching or The Rock was watching, they disappear pretty quickly. Like that's all in your head when you're going into something like that. Like, oh my God, this is in front of such and such. And, my ass is on the line here. But once you're in the promo, like I never like thinking of a promo as a promo, because that's how wrestlers refer to it. It's like if an actor refers to a scene that they're about to do as a monologue, that might be how they refer to it. But when you're on camera or when you're performing that monologue is actually a moment in the life of this character that it's their job to make you believe it's actually happening. So that's how I look at a promo. A promo is not necessarily a promo, even though the point of it is to generate interest in whatever you're talking about. A promo is a moment in the life of whatever pro wrestling character you're watching that just happens to be taking place in a ring with a microphone. And it's their job to make you believe in what they're doing. And it's their job to make the audience invested in what they're selling. So, because if you think of a promo as a promo, then it just starts sounding like any dime a dozen pro wrestling promo. And that's not interesting. Yeah. That's not fun. That's not compelling content. It needs to feel real. Like anytime I hear a pro wrestling promo and it sounds like a promo, I immediately shut it off. I'm just like, ugh, it sounds like a promo.
When they're doing like an in-ring segment, and I think John Cena said it before where he said, "Oh, nice promo." And it's like, all right, Smark, you don't have to use the terms for it. This is John Cena saying nice promo. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a bit of a pet peeve when I know we can refer to it being a promo, like you said, when talking about it. But if you are the wrestler in the ring, you shouldn't refer to it as a promo.
Well, maybe that was John Cena poking. Maybe we're making the same point that John Cena was poking fun.
Maybe,
like, wow,
I think promo. So. Yeah. I know what you mean. It kind of takes you out of it for a second. Like it is like in watching a film and them referring to what they're saying as their lines or something.
Right.
Yeah.
You just like seeing the boom mic in the shot or something. It's just I'm not watching this because I'm watching a product, a presentation of pro wrestling. Like I'm watching pro wrestling. Like take away, I want it to be seamless. You know what I mean? And if somebody is cutting what is very clearly a cookie cutter dime a dozen pro wrestling promo, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to sit through this.
All right, what's your favorite cliche promo line then? Because I know we've got so many where it's like, you people, or I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner. But like,
at the end of the day, when the dust settles, let me tell you something. You know something. I do what I want when I want. The evil laugh. If I never heard another evil laugh, unless it was like Bray Wyatt's character, because it makes sense, then that would be great.
It's the wrestling equivalent of like a stand-up comedian saying, "So what's the deal with airline food?" It's so cliche.
Right. It's tired. Like if you have a unique character, or even if you don't, like you need to engage with your audience in a way that is interesting and maybe sometimes surprising, but just like if like put some respect on my name, or any of that stuff. I'm just like, or like the fill in the blank era has begun. I'm like, oh God.
Oh yeah.
That
bore me to tears.
That used to work, but like I remember when it was like the Age of Orton and that worked, but then they started to say everything was an era. So, and they'd just take whatever that wrestler's nickname is. So Drew McIntyre wins the title. The Claymore era has begun.
So dumb. Yeah. So dumb. How many eras are there now? We've got like 24 eras.
God, way too many. But talking promos, I mean, Rock the promo. That's how good you are, man. You won.
Thank you.
I mean, what was that experience? What was that like to actually win that?
I knew I had won it as soon as I was done with the promo. As soon as I hit, and I hit the time like perfectly. Like I said my last word as 60 seconds ran out. And my opponents, who Sweet Revenge, who were awesome, by the way, an incredibly fun gimmick. They played off each other beautifully, but they went over their time a little bit. And since I was going second and I knew I had a strong promo, I was like, if I hit my time, I've got this. And so you can kind of see, if you go back and for everybody who doesn't know what this is, by the way, Rock the Promo was a weekly, a 10-week episodic program that launched The Rock's YouTube channel in 2016, which is still up, by the way. It's at youtube.com/The Rock. And if you just search Rock the Promo, you'll find it on YouTube. And I did this promo as Broseph Joe Brody, which is a character I've been doing for 9 years now. Out of Hood Slam, mostly Hood Slam in Oakland, California. Yep. And each round was evaluated by names in the wrestling community. So like my rounds were evaluated in this order from first round to final round: Kurt Angle, Christian, Cody Rhodes, Mick Foley, and then The Rock himself made the final call. Wow. And I think other judges were Hurricane, Rey Mysterio, Vicky Guerrero, and Tommy Dreamer, I think were all the other ones. It's a super fun series. Again, if you like go out of your way to check it out. Yeah. But I just knew if I could nail it, then I would have won, and I did. And so, yeah, The Rock, first time he recognized my promo prowess was on Tough Enough, on that promo I cut on Bill DeMott. And then 5 years later, I end up getting that stamp of approval again by winning Rock the Promo, which was crazy experience.
Amazing, man. Amazing.
This is what I was alluding to before we started recording. You're one of those people who's done a little bit of everything. Like you've done your wrestling, you've done Tough Enough, and you've done Rock the Promo. Those are already interesting things anyway, but there's so many things you've like dabbled in. And even coming down to like one thing I wanted to discuss is video games. You were Buzz in 2K19. We've got an actual video game star with us. Like this, you're the first video game guest we've had. So Buzz, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you.
I'm glad to be here, man. As long as that jerk-faced Cole Quinn isn't anywhere nearby, then I think we'll be good.
Hey, from what I've heard, Buzz was the jerk.
Oh, well, you heard that from Cole Quinn, so of course he'd say Buzz was the jerk. You can't trust a thing Cole Quinn says.
How cool was it then, actually getting to be Buzz in a video game? Because I can only imagine that was a bucket list moment.
Surreal. It was absolutely insane. And like growing up playing video games, growing up playing wrestling video games, like WWF No Mercy was always my favorite. I think I logged more hours playing that than anything else. And it was, so when I got the audition for that, I didn't know it was for WWE 2K19. I thought it was for a TV show or something that just had a pro wrestling element to it. It wasn't until I was offered the role that it was made clear what the project was. That's how hush-hush a lot of these things are. And so I remember being at a stoplight and checking my email, and it was from 2K Games saying that, this project that we had a working title for, it's actually not this working title. It's actually for my career mode in WWE 2K19. And so I rolled down the windows and cranked up AC/DC and just like turned the volume all the way up. I was rocking out so hard. But yeah, it really was. It was a dream gig. It was a dream gig to be the voice of the main character in WWE's flagship video game. Was, even when I say those words out loud right now, it's like I can't believe that happened. It's crazy.
I remember seeing a post on Reddit, I think it was last year, because you had an appearance on SmackDown after you'd done the recording.
Yeah.
And somebody said, "Oh, Buzz appeared on SmackDown last night." And in brackets, AJ Kirsch.
Yeah.
I just found it funny that people, they refer to you as Buzz now as well.
It's so cool though. It's really cool to have that performance from a couple of years ago now still stay with people. And like, even when 2K20 came out, people were like vocally disappointed that there wasn't a continuation of Buzz's story. I think it's a story that a lot of people just gravitated toward and identified with, because this was the first time we saw my career mode go from the indies. Usually it starts with you getting at the Performance Center or actually in WWE, but they actually, you followed Buzz around from being an indie jobber to main eventing WrestleMania. Yeah. And so I think any wrestling fan, somewhere at some point imagines what it would be like to just decide to pursue pro wrestling. And that's been the most accurate depiction of what that journey looks like so far. And I think that's one of the reasons people really attached to Buzz, and Cole for that matter, who, by the way, is now in real life part of the main roster on Monday Night Raw. Mansoor voiced Cole Quinn. I don't know if you guys knew.
Know that. And I love Mansoor.
Yeah. So I voiced Buzz, Mansoor voiced Cole Quinn, and now Mansoor is actually on Monday Night Raw, which is a funny, like, life imitating art type of thing.
That's incredible, because I'm a big Mansoor fan. I think he's going to be a big deal one day.
I think so.
He's got a lot of charisma about him. I think I might have to try and get Mansoor on one day, and yourself, and have an interview between Buzz.
I would love to make that happen.
Yeah. I think that's a bucket list for me now. So
yeah, you might notice my quietness there, AJ, because I can't turn a computer on, so I'll leave the video.
He doesn't know about video games. He still thinks we're playing on a SNES or a Mega Drive or something. He's still 20 years in the past.
I'm terrible.
So. Right.
Terrible.
Well, in 20, keep this conversation handy so that in 20 years you can dust it off and be like, oh yeah. I see what's happening here.
This is it. Now, what I know Callum mentioned. Callum mentioned AEW. So before I ask mine, what is it like being a part of AEW?
AEW. The biggest difference between that and WWE is that the vibe backstage is just so chill. It's just way more relaxed. I never once felt like I was walking on eggshells backstage at AEW. Everybody is super approachable. Cody and I talked a number of times, and I never felt like I was bothering him by asking a question. It's great. Everybody's really there for everybody. It didn't once feel like somebody was there just for themselves or to put themselves over. The production value is top notch. Yeah. It felt amazing to wrestle in an actual venue again, even though it wasn't in front of a lot of people. It was still just fun to wrestle. And that was only my 6th match in the last 6 years, because my focus for a long time has really been on hosting, ring announcing, and commentary. Yeah. And so part of me was just worried. I was like, oh my God, am I going to still look like I belong in the ring? And I'm pleased with how the match came out. I don't know what my future is with AEW. Of course, I would jump at the chance to work with them again, but Double or Nothing was amazing. They're having fans come back, which is awesome. And the future Rampage, I think, is coming out later this summer. So it's they're running on all cylinders, and it's really exciting to see.
What did you make to obviously I've not watched Double or Nothing yet because I've been working, so that's literally what I'm doing after this.
Okay.
What's your thoughts? Honestly, we've had Paul White, Christian. What's your thoughts on Mark Henry now being All Elite?
I have mixed feelings about it. It's cool when a company can bring in established names to like generate interest or buzz, or pardon the pun, I guess. But like it's fun to see names like that pop up. At some point though, somebody, it's like how many of those names from whose primes are behind them are they going to bring in without feeling like WCW or without feeling like TNA? Like, I think they're doing a great job of building new stars. Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, like these young guys that are just like
Jungle Boy,
Oh yeah, like they're killing it right now. But when you bring in too many names of yesteryear, the more often you do it, the less special it becomes. And so pro wrestling like is in the habit of like, there's always going to be some nostalgia for pro wrestling. Like I think there's always going to be, you still with me? There we go. There's always going to be that desire to bring back a Ric Flair or Steve Austin or whoever, right? But if you make nostalgia part of the regular act, it just loses what makes it special. So I just caution them to do it, to not do it. Maybe pump the brakes on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I love seeing people like that get a job, of course, but it's like, for the sake of the product, maybe limit how often you do it.
I completely agree with you on that, because I know recently they had Paul White, they announced that he'd signed. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. But then they announced that Paul White had an announcement, and he announced that Christian Cage was coming. And I was like, okay, so they had an announcement, making an announcement about someone coming in. And then Mark Henry came in. And by the time Mark Henry's come in, I was like, if that was a couple of months ago, I'd have been like, oh, wow, okay. But now I'm just like, cool.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But it's awesome. I'm glad everyone's got work, like you said.
Right, exactly. Working. Like the fact that they still have something to contribute is great. Yeah. But again, it's like to your point, it was just like, oh, look at that, cool.
Yeah.
Unless like, oh my god.
Yeah. Now, what I did want to ask you, because we've spoke to, I mentioned Logan Creed earlier. We had Alicia Toot on the other week. We get an hour of MLW over here in the UK, and it's one of the best wrestling shows I've seen in a long time. What was it like being a part of MLW for you?
MLW was definitely a growing experience for me. I'd never regularly called wrestling for television before, and so to get not a crash course, because it wasn't like, that's not true. They did kind of like just throw me into it, because my very first proper show with MLW was their debut on pay-per-view, which was live worldwide. So it's like, man, like that was like, I was nervous, I was excited, but it was live. It was like this, and worldwide. So it was like, you don't get any second takes. You don't get to go back and do it again. But I feel like that was all part of the learning process. I definitely came out a better commentator than when I went in. Mm-hmm. And a huge part of that was thanks to Rich Bocchini, who was my broadcast partner, former NXT and SmackDown commentator, and just really went out of his way to not only make me feel welcome, but to catch me up to speed on the things I need to look out for and be aware of when calling wrestling, specifically for television. Because it's not just calling the action is like the fun part. It's the traffic that's the problem. And the traffic as in like, what segment are we coming out of? What are we throwing to? Is it a graphic? Is it a video package? Is it the next match? Like, you need to know where you're coming from and where you're going all the time, or you need to be able to make it look like even if you don't. And so that was the biggest kind of learning curve for me, was doing that. But like I said, I'm definitely far better at that than I was when I came in. And MLW was nice enough to grant me my request for my release from my contract so that I could give AEW a shot. I hear it doesn't happen often, so I have nothing but gratitude for my time at MLW, who, by the way, just got a deal with Vice TV, which is like amazing for them. So like, again, like WWE, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But with AEW and MLW doing so well, it's very refreshing to see that pro wrestling as a whole is just alive and well, and not just at WWE.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I said, MLW is one of the best hour of wrestling that I watch. You know, when we get the chance over here, it's just what they're doing is incredible. I mean, do you think they're on the cusp of something big as well at the next level? Or
if they keep going the way they have been, I think it's only a matter of time until MLW is on far more television screens than they are right now.
Yeah, it'll be kind of the same with what happened with Ring of Honor, for example, where they've been around for so long. They finally got the foot in the door of a TV deal, and that became the Sinclair deal. I can see it going the same way for MLW too.
Yeah,
me too.
So before we wrap up and we let you go and we make you announce all of your pages again, I've got to ask you one thing. We mentioned Tough Enough. We mentioned Steve Austin. What's Bill DeMott like then? Because you hear a lot of good things, you hear a lot of bad things. What was your experience with Bill DeMott?
He was definitely the hardest of the trainers, and that was pretty much to be expected. That's his reputation on Tough Enough, as being the drill sergeant of everybody.
Yeah.
We only saw the trainers when the cameras were on Tough Enough. Right. We didn't get to hang out with them, work out with them, pick their brains or anything. If we were around the trainers, the cameras were on, which means the trainers were on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the only Bill that we got on the show was hard-ass drill sergeant Bill. Bill and I have stayed in touch ever since. In fact, I'm interviewing him this Friday for an upcoming episode of Tough Talk, which I'm very excited about. But he's a sweet guy. He's a sweet guy outside of Tough Enough.
Yeah.
I can't speak to any of the allegations that ultimately led to his departure from NXT because I never experienced anything like that. I'm going to give him a chance to address those allegations when he and I talk on Friday. I don't know, how much of that he wants to discuss. If it's none, that's up to him, but maybe he wants to get into it. I don't know. It's been, 10 years since Tough Enough and, closer to 10 years than 5 years since he left NXT. So it's like, maybe he's in a position that he's ready to talk about it. I don't know, but he's always been great with me. He was tough, but he was fair on Tough Enough. So I like Bill. I
always like Bill DeMott, and he's another guy that I always found underrated.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's
the guy could
I think he's one of the most talented big men to ever work. I mean, he's not like 7 feet or anything, but for his size, for him to do the things that he's able to do is pretty unreal.
300 pounds.
Right.
He was still doing moonsaults like a cruiserweight. So
exactly,
the guy could go.
Exactly.
So,
but he's in my experience, he's a good guy. But like I said, I can't speak to the allegations surrounding his departure from NXT.
Oh, yeah. But obviously, before we let you go now, I'm going to let you promote all of your stuff again.
Thank you. I guess the big thing is, check out Tough Talk with AJ Kirsch. New episodes drop every week. You can listen on your podcast provider of preference by going to thetoughtalkpod.com. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's all at the Tough Talk Pod. And you get access to early and ad-free episodes and full-length bonus episodes by signing up for the Money Talks tier at patreon.com/AJ Kirsch. And you can follow me on all things social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. It's all at AJ Kirsch, AJKIRSCH.
Perfect.
I don't even remember my Twitter handles. That's just wonderful.
We used to actually plug our stuff at the end of each show, but then we thought if they're watching, the chances are they already follow us on Twitter. And then we thought we can never remember it anyway, so let's just not bother. So if you do want to follow us, just look in the description somewhere. I'm sure there'll be a link if I can to put it in. So yeah.
We're very professional.
So professional.
Clearly.
But dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. Honestly, man, we've been looking forward to this one. So we can't thank you enough. AJ Kirsch, thank you, man.
You guys, it was a pleasure, and thank you again for bearing with me. With renovations happening, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I had a blast, you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Anytime, man. Thank you.